My name is Penny Marie. I'm from Let Kids Be Kids in New Zealand. There has been a decades-long multi-pronged attack on biological reality and the family unit. For example, the International Bill of Gender Rights was drafted and adopted by the International Conference on Transgender Law and Employment Policy in 1993. At the time of their creation, these rights were not legally binding, but the goal was that they would be adopted by the United Nations and become recognised in legislation throughout the world. In order to do this, they had developed a decades-long strategy, accessed millions, if not billions of dollars, and got key people into high places of influence. They needed the media, and they needed the movie and gaming and social media industries to push their propaganda. And they needed to capture the minds of our children. How did they do that? Via the state education departments. In 2006, the Yogyakarta Principles were written. So named because the first meeting that resulted in these principles took place in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. The result was 29 principles written on the application of international human rights law in relation to sexual orientation and gender identity. The goal of these principles was to deconstruct sex, replace with the word gender, and use non-government organisations to do it. The World Health Organization, the United Nations, and others. At the time, these principles were non-binding on any nation, but binding was the ultimate goal. In 2020, Jeff Holloway wrote a paper called Background to the Yogyakarta Principles, published on ResearchGate. He says the genesis of the Yogyakarta Principles is a horror story. That is the only way to describe it, involving several key people, legal strategies, and well-organised public relations events, all designed to replace the word sex with gender. Some of the key people behind the Yogyakarta Principles, please go and look them up for yourself for more information, includes Martine Rothblatt, a transsexual transhumanist. Chicago-born, raised in California, Martine is a male who identifies as a woman. Martine is a lawyer, author, entrepreneur, and very wealthy and influential person here in the USA and around the world. Martine is a telecommunications expert and biotech CEO. He created a robot replica of his wife Bina with the intention of installing Bina's consciousness into the robot so they can live in cyberspace indefinitely. Phyllis Frye, a transsexual Texan male who identifies as a woman. Phyllis is a lawyer and America's first transgender judge, referred to as the grandmother of the transgender movement. Stephen Whittle, a transsexual British-born female identifying as a woman. An activist and business person, Stephen was the president of the World Professional Association for Transgender Healthcare, WPATH, from 2007 to 2009, just after these principles were published. Stephen was part of Press for Change, an influential trans lobby group in the UK in the 1990s. And Christine Burns, a transsexual British-born male identifying as a woman, an activist and business person, also involved in Press for Change. Since 2007, Christine has been a key advisor and political strategist for the trans movement. In 2017, 10 more principles were developed and a second publication, the Yogyakarta Principles Plus 10, was created. The goal of these 10 new principles was to enshrine gender rights into human rights law worldwide. The strategy was to go from non-binding to binding. To do that, they needed the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and other NGOs. Through the NGOs, they were able to influence international human rights law and human rights commissions globally. They leverage off key instruments such as the United Nations declarations and turn well-meaning laws and policies against the population to push their agenda. By minimising sex and amplifying gender in law, the door is now open wide for body modification to be normalised, biological reality of the sexual binary to be minimised and erased, and for humans to disassociate in their minds and consciousness from their physical bodies and biological reality. It doesn't take a biologist to see that this isn't going to end well for humanity. We're so far along this dystopian path now that children identify as furries and all manner of gender word salads that have come directly from the concocted terms and glossaries created by well-funded trans lobby organisations. The people driving this know that children take what teachers tell them to be literal and truth, even when it is a blatant lie. See how we got there? They put gender into law, and then gender became whatever they want it to be. Can you see why our kids need us? Remember, these principles were developed by a transhumanist and transsexuals, not by ordinary people like you and I, wanting to normalise their actions and perversions and creating a lucrative industry for pharma, therapists and transhumanism. So they lobby the governments for funding. These principles have been developed to future plan so that people can do and be whoever they want, and they are protected by law. Whether that includes grooming, pedophilia, children being taught that they are born in the wrong body. The solution to their trauma and identity distress is to mutilate, castrate, and sterilise themselves, even though their philosophy is that gender is fluid and can change. And parents must go along with it, or else apparently the children will suicide, which are lies that have been debunked in the Cass report. To question this is now outlawed and maligned in the media, education and society. Teachers who believe gender ideology tell our kids that heterosexual is uncool, as if adolescence isn't hard enough. From primary school, children are taught that they are sexual from birth, that their born sex may not relate to their gender, and that gender is fluid and may change. The strategy of bringing this through international human rights law is a masterful stroke. This happened very strategically, while the majority of the population were just going about our ordinary lives having no idea of this plan. A key document that ushers this into the education systems worldwide is the International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education, written in 2018. This is a collaboration between the World Health Organization, the United Nations, UNESCO, UNICEF, UNAIDS, UNFPA, and UN Women. Dig a little and you will find that this is the basis of comprehensive sexuality worldwide. It requires education departments to teach children the topics that are causing immeasurable harm, and that the people that I stand here with today know is real, see every day and talk to parents about, thousands of parents who have had children that are harmed by this ideology. And we have dedicated our time to expose and remove it. Thank you.